I'm tone deaf, neither capable of singing nor playing any instruments, and yet I dream music, the most wondrous melodies and unique syncopated rhythms, passages that in my waking moments remain undefined, yet no less insightful. In the dream time, these tunes seem to weave a profound story, a story more ancient than the world we know, a narrative in song that's somehow older than life itself. Upon awakening, I'm unable to remember this music, but I don't need to. I had and have Rose Partland to serve as teller of the tale. Anytime I need her and her band, Jack or Rose's, the Pied Pipers of Rock, the last of the 60s bands who kept the vibe alive, so to speak, I conjure her euphonious, fragile alto of a voice out of the sleeves of silver discs that lay nestled in a thick binder in the passenger seat. Recordings of the shows she and her bandmates played, a representative sample of their work anyway, until she died on us in that grim summer of 1997. Jack played thousands of concerts, playing to live, living to play, for themselves and for those of us who so loved them for their efforts. The CDs, my only traveling companions. Kipling's maxim, "He who travels the fastest travels alone," offers no comfort, however, only reminds me of all that I've lost. My wife Halsey, to our freshly minted divorce decree, and my best friend Brian, to the big divorce, that is death. Once, they'd have both been with me on an I-95 drive like this, either heading to or returning from an East Coast Jack gig, RFK or JFK Stadium, a basketball arena like the Spectrum or MSG, or the last leg of a jaunt that had taken us into the Midwest. No longer. Childhood ends, never more so than in the instance of death. Brian Godbold and Rose Partland, together again. I'm surprised he lasted the 7 years since she left us. I'm not sure Brian had any other reason to get out of bed in the morning than going to Jack shows. Hell, he told me as much, almost from the first moments that I met him, on the Southeastern University campus a week after Jack played our football stadium on their 1987 summer tour. "I was born to get high and go to these concerts," he said over bong rips in his dorm room. We sat smoking and listening to tapes of the Red Tail Stadium show, which I couldn't believe he had in his possession. I didn't understand that the band allowed their fans to record the shows. "I know how that must sound," he added, self-conscious. "I hear you," not truly understanding in the least. Concerts were entertainment, not a lifestyle. I'd find out there was much I didn't understand. That show was one of the coolest times I ever had. Other than the last Jack show we saw together, which turned out to be the final concert that Jack or Roses would ever play, by the time of his death I hadn't gone on tour with Brian for a few years. I'd outgrown it, or so he accused me. I tried to tell him it wasn't that way, that I'd taken what I needed and left the rest. For him, for anyone who needed what Jack had to offer. But to him, my recalcitrance was a betrayal of Rose herself and all she represented. As though there weren't other kids to take my place. We were legion of followers. Would we deign to be led? As a famous bumper sticker noted with sardonic wit, "Who the hell is Jack? And why is he following me?" Alone no more. Not long after I crossed from Virginia into North Carolina, the pulsing pinpoints of a cop's electric blue rollers began firing in the rear view. A psychedelic light show that does its sole job with alacrity and efficiency. My attention, wandering, has been gotten. Pulled. Not good. I dig out my bona fides. If you got yanked on Jack tour, you sat there waiting for a miracle, hoping he wouldn't have a dog. But I haven't been on tour in a long time, and don't look the part of the hippie vagabond, the stereotype most associated with followers of Jack or Roses, known colloquially as F-kids. Looking the way I do, my goatee hiding a weak chin, and with a genteel Charleston cadence coloring my voice, he'll probably think I'm gay, not a pothead. The state trooper hitches up his belt, approaches my vehicle. I'm not doing anything wrong, nothing actionable on the speeding citation. Nothing to see here, for the most part. Truth. Yes, I do have some weed in the car, but it's well hidden. The head stash, an OZ of named strain, stinky indoor hydrobud, modest in quantity, is still enough to get me detained, hassled, charged. This isn't my first rodeo. The herbs vacuum sealed and secreted inside a box full of candy and roasted coffee beans. Sounds elaborate, almost professional. But hey, I'm no Yankee drug dealer like William Hurt driving down south for his old buddy's funeral. My best friend's already buried. And besides, I never dealt anything in my life except maybe some BS. License and registration, sir. As I fork over my papers, my hand betrays a slight tremor. How's it going, officer? Mr. Zemp, the trooper says. According to my little speedometer back there, I'd say it's going right at 85 miles an hour. Gee, I say, holding onto the wheel like I'd been taught from movies and cop shows, keeping my hands visible. That's pretty egregious, I guess. Do what now? Traffic howls by, vehicles sliding into the passing lane, giving a respectable berth to the captor and his miserable, penitent prey. A bead of sweat slips down my right temple. Courtesy, contrition. Don't argue with them. All advice from my father, to whom I'm trying to return, this pushing 40 man with nowhere else to go, and who now suffers a state trooper sniffing around his dope stash. Sorry, you know how it is out here. His mirror shades hide probing cop eyes, which I imagine have narrowed. Out here? Here on the road. Out here on the road, he says, thoughtful. He taps my license on the doorframe and allows his gaze to drift across the 6 sizzling lanes of I-95. Vehicles screaming by ridiculous velocities, their drivers unmindful of a cop with some other a-hole already pulled. That's where we are, all right. Truth is, sir, I wasn't watching my speed as closely as I should have. Won't happen again. He grumbles, and excuses himself to go run my info through Big Brother's tangled web. I'm straight, though. No worries. A clean slate in more ways than he and his cop computer realize. After 5 brutally long minutes, I watch as the trooper strides back towards my vehicle. He hesitates at the back bumper. Something's caught his eye. Mr. Zemp, I feel like I'm going to vomit. Yes, sir? I don't know what the speed limit signs look like in Maryland. The cop says it like Maryland. But the ones here in the great state of North Carolina, those black and white things you see every so often, about 10 foot tall, you know the ones? Yes, sir. I realize I'm white-knuckling the steering wheel. Force myself to release the tension in my hands. I understand. Glad to hear it. He scribbles on his pad of tissue-thin citations. Look here, I'm going to take you at your word that you're going to slow it down out here, as you put it, and only issue you this morning. He snaps off the ticket, hands it over. This time, I hesitate, considering the last few months of my life. I can't believe this instance of good fortune. I nod, accept the citation, and begin rolling up the window. Oh, Mr. Zemp, hold on. Let me ask you something right quick. My heart's trip-hammering now. I know this tactic. I'm effed. By all means. Walking up here earlier, I noticed something winking out at me from your license plate. He tilts his head. That little decal you put on there. This is bad. I've been made. He's referring to a small Jack or Roses sticker I put on there ages ago. The image, the most familiar band icon. A red and blue rose in full bloom with a kind of glimmering white starburst at its center. A symbol that's not only recognized all over the world, but one that's associated with individuals known to partake of the sweet leaf. The fact that the cop brought the sticker up at all means I have every reason to believe he's about to tear this car apart. Playing dumb is all I have left to try. A decal? Which one? The one on your plate? I'm not sure what you mean. He described the sticker. I shrug. Back up yonder in Merlin, they allow y'all to put little flowers on your vehicle license plate? His expression is blank enough to play world-class Texas Hold'em. What is that little old thing anyway? Don't really know, to be honest. He's counting my lies. You don't know what. A beat of silence. Thinking fast, the survival instinct kicking in, I hold up my hands and feign nonchalant acknowledgement. Oh, this is my wife's car. Was my wife's car. Now mine. Part of the divorce settlement. Irrelevant to the discussion at hand, this blatant play for masculine sympathy represents my last shot at weaseling out of this. I didn't even know it was on there. Hooking his thumbs into his utility belt, he nods. Whether it's your car, your wife's car, I can tell you this much. In this state, it ain't legal to deface your plate. The moment hangs there. The big rigs blow past, shaking the chassis of the aging Explorer. I worry that he can see the pulse pounding in the side of my neck. I feel as though I'm going to pass out. I'll get rid of it. I would. He holds my gaze. If I was you. After he's gone back to his cruiser, gesturing and waiting for me to pull out first, which I do, with him riding behind me for a few tenths of a mile. Only once he whips into the median to head in the opposite direction do I relax. I drive only as far as the next rest stop, where I take his advice. With a lump in my throat, I squat behind the Explorer and use a flathead screwdriver to scrape the GD Jack O' Roses sticker off my license plate.